As the CEO of the Wounded Warrior Program, it is an honor to have the privilege to speak on behalf of our nation's wounded warriors and veterans. Our program began in 2005 at Womack Army Medical Center as a pilot program developed through AbilityOne and Industries for the Blind Milwaukee. We worked with our Congress and Senate, Department of Defense, Department of Army, and the Warrior Transition Battalions to help secure the futures of our wounded warriors and help provide meaningful employment through AbilityOne agencies. After creating the Wounded Warrior Program with our dedicated staff and while we go to work each day, I want to tell you a brief story about a wounded warrior who contacted us a few years back. Colonel Thomas Hunley called me one afternoon and gave me the name of a wounded warrior who had tried to find employment for about 5 years. Everywhere he went, he was turned down. This gentleman was injured during the war. He was disfigured. This soldier worked hard every day to do everything he needed to do with the Warrior Transition Battalions to recover and to be a successful citizen again. He went everywhere trying to find employment and could not. One night I was returning from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base when I received a phone call from Colonel Thomas Hunley. He gave me this young man's name and gave him my phone number. He heard I had a job at Womack Army Medical Center, and he said he would contact him and tell him to call me. And I said, I agreed. This young man called me within about 30 minutes of the phone call. I asked him if he could meet me in the morning at 8 a.m. at Womack Army Medical Center. The young man said, I cannot wait until tomorrow. Please meet me tonight. So I told him it would take me about an hour from where I was to get to Fort Bragg. This young man met me in a parking lot at a shopping mall. When we got there, he approached my car and we talked for a few minutes and I invited him to sit down. I interviewed him for about 30 minutes and I decided to give him a job. I asked this young man to report the next morning at 8 a.m. to be a part of our Wounded Warrior Program. In just 2 minutes, he got out of my car, he was on his phone, and he was crying as hard as he could cry. I had no idea about his story. I looked behind him as he turns around and his wife and 2 little boys are running out of a Sears building over to our parking lot where my car was parked. And they were hugging their dad for the first time in 5 years. They were all crying that Daddy has a job. The story doesn't end there. The next morning when I reported to Womack Army Medical Center, this young man had been there since 7 a.m. And I thought, well, this won't last. Well, he did this every single day. Worked every single day, working as hard as he could to provide for his family. And it didn't end there. I found out that just 2 weeks prior, he had written a suicide note to take his own life because he had done everything he could do to try to get a job and take care of his family. We were very thankful that he was a part of our program. He worked very hard for a solid year. When the White House called and asked that we submit names for Wounded Warrior of the Year, we submitted his name. Out of 3,500 military personnel, this young man was selected as the first Wounded Warrior of the Year at the White House. What an honor. This young man spoke to many wounded warriors across the country who were committing suicide at 22 per day to let them know that programs like the Wounded Warrior Program had been set up to help find employment for them. And every single day of our lives at the Wounded Warrior Program, we get these phone calls from wives, husbands, children, parents to help find employment for these young men and women. No one knows how bad they're hurting. So I'm telling you right now tonight, on behalf of AbilityOne, the Wounded Warrior Program, and our military, our Department of Defense, and all the branches of the service, we're working hard to make sure you have a place to go to work when you leave the military and recover from your injuries. It has been an honor and privilege to watch our men and women who've served our country find jobs and to work and become productive citizens once again, either working for corporate America or returning to the U.S. government in a GS position. As we have developed over the years, we've featured different companies that employ our wounded warriors. Each Wounded Warrior program is operated independently by the companies across the country, the AbilityOne companies. The AbilityOne companies were set up, they're a .gov company, and they were set up to provide employment for Americans with disabilities such as visually impaired and physically impaired. So we joined together with them to ensure that the veterans could work and be a part of this great program. As a federal agency or military agency, all we ask is that you spend a little money on Schedule 73 and 5, Schedule 71, 51V to help support our wounded warriors. Purchasing pens and pencils through the programs help provide the jobs and employment for everyone who's searching for a job within our Wounded Warrior system. We feature companies like CapstoneOffice.com. They supply the White House and the State Department, as well as Fort Bragg and many other locations around the country. They help and pay and employ our wounded warriors. You can go to CapstoneOffice.com and find them there to place your orders. You can also go on FedMall. You can go on GSA Advantage, as well as know that they have a FSSI contract as well. We thank them for always supporting and be a part of our Wounded Warrior program and being featured this year during our training sessions with the General Services Administration. As we go forward, I always like to thank companies like Industries for the Blind Milwaukee, where they help develop the pilot programs, Bosma Corporation, bosma.org in Indianapolis, and Envision US, where they have about 81 of our warriors working. We have developed a PPE kit now that's made in the U.S., assembled in the U.S., with all the PPE equipment, with the mask and the gloves, the Purell, as well as the alcohol wipes. We also have included water purifying tablets now. And on behalf of our Wounded Warrior program, on behalf of all the government agencies, the military, as well as the Congress and the Senate, as well as the White House, thank you for supporting what we do. Thank you for everyone with Ability One, GSA, always being there to help find employment for our wounded warriors and our veterans. Thank you for this opportunity.